Hey guys, Tyler here with Mid-South LED. Today we are going to be doing a walkthrough on the installation of these here GM tow mirror switchback marker lights. This is a 2016 Chevy Silverado 2500, and we'll go through some of the stuff you need in order to complete this. Alright, so some of the things we're going to need to complete this task. To start, some sort of a pick. You can use a flathead screwdriver. I prefer this, and it makes it a little bit easier to get into the tight spots, which I will show you later. The other thing that come in handy is some sort of utility knife. Wire strippers will be good too, to help you cut some of the wires that we're going to need. A T15 Torx bit. I have this one on a drill, but any sort of screwdriver with a T15 on it will work as well. Electrical tape to redo some of the wiring, and then as far as redoing some of the connections, you can use butt connectors with heat shrink on them. I prefer to solder, and obviously soldering wire as well. Next, let's dive into getting this mirror taken apart. Alright guys, so the first step to taking your mirror apart in order to install the marker light, which I actually already have in, but I'm going to run through this with you guys real quick, is the top glass is the first piece to come out. What you're going to want to do is, when it's in the mirror, push down on the bottom. The mirror will be done like that. It's really hard to pull on. You think you're going to break it, but you won't. Just give it a little tug from the top. Make sure you support the inside of it with your thumb so you don't actually crack the glass in the mirror. And then once that one is popped out, the next one will be the lower glass, and I will show you that here in just a second. Alright, so now that we have the upper glass off, the harder one, the lower glass. So if you can see here, mine's actually have a couple broken clips because I've had this off a few times. But these little retainers on the top, there's two on the top, the bottom, the left, and the right. Those are what you are going to want to pull up or remove with that flathead screwdriver or that pick. I use that pick, just kind of push up on it a little bit, leave some tension on it with your fingers once you get it pushed up, and then you should be able to roll it back off the mirror from here, and then it should just pop off. Again, you're going to be pulling kind of hard. You think you might break something. You know, like I said, a few of mine are broken, but it still holds on there just fine. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and remove this here bezel. There are 5 screws holding it on with that T15 Torx bit. There's 2 down here in the bottom. There's 1 right here in the center, and then again 2 up on top. Again, this is not something that you need a drill for. You can very easily just use a screwdriver with that T15 Torx bit on there. Once this is unscrewed, comes off just like so. You're going to want to make sure that this bottom mirror cover does not come off, because it does not stay on there the best sometimes. Alright, so here's that bezel we just took off. Here again are the 2 screws up on top, the 1 Torx 15 right in the middle, and then the T15s down at the bottom. Now, like I said before, I did have this mirror halfway apart before. I just put it back together quick to show you guys. If you are taking this apart for the first time, this wire right here on the back of this bezel will be disconnected. That is the LED backup light. There's just a little factory connection on there you can pull right off, and you should be able to take this whole bezel off. One thing I should clarify with you guys too is this is a factory OEM tow mirror. This is not one of the replacements you can buy from Amazon or some of the other websites that are out there. This is the mirror that came factory. I can't speak to those other mirrors that you can buy off Amazon and stuff as far as where the stuff plugs in or how this all works. This is specifically for the OEM application. Alright, in order to actually replace the OEM marker light with the aftermarket Mid-South LED marker light, there are 2 T15 Torx, 1 on top, 1 on bottom down here. These 2 are going to come off. You can kind of slide this out, slide your new one in. That's all a lot easier if you have the whole mirror apart. And then let's run through some of these wires quick. This is the connection for the LED backup light that is on that mirror bezel that we took off before. Again, these are the 2 connections for your heated element in the top mirror glass. This is the turn signal connection that we are going to later tap into in order to get turn signal power to these new marker lights. And then these are the 2 connections that come off of your new Mid-South LED switchback mirror light. This connection here is for something in there. I really don't remember what, but it doesn't matter because we're going to cut it off. Alright, so our first step in completing the rewire of these new marker lights is going to be to cut off the factory marker light connection. And one tool I forgot to mention before is some little snippers here. So pop that off like so. And then you're going to want to take your utility knife and you're going to want to kind of open these wires up and expose them so that we can rewire them. Alright, so now that we got some of the tape peeled back that was covered these up from the factory, we are going to want to strip them down so we have some exposed wire to work with. And this is where I said wire strippers would come in handy. Alright, so you're going to want to do that for both your power and your ground here. Looks like we've got about 3/4 of an inch stripped back there, so that should work just fine. You're going to want to do that for both, like I said. Anywhere from 3/4 of an inch to an inch is going to leave you plenty to work with when you are trying to rewire these into the Mid-South LED marker lights. Alright, so what we're going to do next is we're going to take our two drivers that we have here, and we're just going to twist together these ends, because we're going to wire both of the same colored wires off the driver together into one wire off of our factory mirror. Now depending on how much wire you prefer to have when you're doing this kind of stuff, depends on how far back you need to strip some of these, or if you need to strip back these wires at all. Alright, so as you can see here, we have spun a couple of these together. You're going to want to spin the two white wires off of your LED drivers together, and then attach them to the orange/red wire coming out of your factory marker light connection that you had already cut off. Again, with the black, both of the black wires off your LED drivers, spin them together, and then attach them to the black ground coming out of your LED marker light. Here you can see I have connected the two wires out of the two amber wires out of the LED drivers, and then this is that white connection we had that plugged into our top mirror glass. With these two spun together, you can kind of wrap it around the red wire on that factory connection there. We're just going to kind of splice that together, and then I'm going to go ahead and solder these back up, and we'll see you guys in a few minutes. So before we solder these up, might be a good tip for you guys too, probably should make sure they work. Let's give it a shot. It appears that we have turn signals, and we have running lights. Looks good. Let's get it soldered up. Alright, so I got my soldering iron heating up here. We're going to go ahead and solder these three connections together. Just to go over them one more quick time, we have black to black, white to the red coming out of the factory connection, and then our orange LED driver lights to the red turn signal wire that plugs into your arrow turn signal on the upper mirror glass. We're going to get these soldered up. So we got the soldering all done. You can see here, they're not terrible. It could be a little better, but I don't do this professionally, so that's okay. One thing I want to mention here is you will notice that since this is the driver's side of the vehicle, the passenger side actually has one more wire coming out of the mirror. Factory location plugs into the bottom mirror cap, and that is your ambient air temperature sensor for the outside. That will not be on this side. There's only one. That's another wire over there. You don't have to worry about that. Leave that sensor plugged in. If you do decide to go with an aftermarket mirror cap, as I did, it does not come with that bottom hole where you can plug that sensor in. What I did was I taped it together with these wires, tucked it back behind in the inside the mirror, and let it be there. It works just fine. So one thing to note when you guys are placing your drivers, now that we have everything soldered, taped up with some electrical tape, we're going to reinstall everything. When you're placing these drivers in here, you want to be conscientious of where you are placing them in reference to your bars that your mirrors slide on when you pull the mirrors out. As you can see, my mirror's pulled out right now, and it creates a lot of room in here, but you want to not put that driver there because you won't be able to push it back in. A couple good spots right up against this right side edge here. There's a big cavity in there. You can tape everything together and kind of stuff it in there, as well as some of these holes where the casting is. For the plastic, the driver will fit in there very nicely as well. Make sure you secure it well so it doesn't rattle going down the road. Not that you'd be able to hear it, but that is one thing to think about when you're doing this as well. So let's get this buttoned up. And so I got everything arranged in here how I like. One thing to remember, putting this bezel back on, we are going to have to plug your LED backup light back in. Get that in there secured. Get your bezel back on. Make sure you have clearance with your wires quick. Make sure nothing is hitting or rubbing, and you're able to secure it all the way back. I'm going to pop this off quick. I'm going to get my top and bottom mirror caps on, screw this together, and then we should be good to put our glass back in, which I'll run through you quick, and that should wrap up this install. We're going to throw this back together here. Make sure that you have both your wires out for your heated mirror glass, and then the wire that we tapped into for the back of the mirror for your arrow. Throw your screws back in. Make sure that your mirror caps are lined up all the way around as well. Sometimes they go back together and they're not clipped in just right. Get all this back together, and then we can throw our glass back in and we should be good to go. Alright, we're going to throw our bottom mirror glass back in. Like I said, there's these little tabs around here, fit perfectly around this little circle. This one is pretty easy. Kind of roll it up around there. Maybe make sure your tabs are lined up, kind of look over it from the top, and then it snaps right back on there. Make sure it's good and tight, and then we can do the top side. For your top glass, you're going to want to make sure that you plug in your two bottom connections for your heated mirror, and then also make sure that the turn signal is plugged in as well. This one is a little more difficult than the bottom mirror. It took me a few times to get good at. The whole goal is to just kind of roll it back on. These snaps, for whatever reason, are slightly temperamental, and they don't like to work real well. Just kind of eyeball it back there, that you have it on there right. Make sure those little metal tabs are stuck back in the mirror, not caught on anything. Use your left hand, push from the back side of the mirror, supporting it. Make sure you have your hand kind of in the position I do, just so you don't crack the mirror. And then just roll it around a little bit, and she's in there. Now that we got this mirror lens put back in, install is complete. Nothing too difficult. I'm not very good with wiring myself, but I was able to figure this out, so I'm sure you guys could too. Make sure you check us out at midsouthled.net. You can pick up these GM Switchback mirror lights for your truck. They're $250 if you go with just a smoked option, $345 if you want them paint matched to your truck. We can do any color you'd like. We also have options like these light up door handles that are also switchbacks. We can do rock lights, full and complete headlight, taillight builds. We have cab lights. That's just for this model. There's tons of other lights on there. Check out the lights that you want for your truck, and we can get you guys hooked up. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Please remember to comment, like, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.